Welcome to the Becoming Superhuman podcast, where we interview extraordinary people to bring you the skills and strategies to overcome the impossible. And now, here's your host, Jonathan Levy.
Before we get started, I just want to let you guys know that this week's episode is brought to you by my new online course, Become a Superhuman. And yes, it sounds exactly like the title of the podcast, but this is actually an online course where we go into the various aspects of improving your health, specifically your endocrine health. More specifically, getting your testosterone up to the optimal levels. Now, whether you're a male or a female, as we've learned in numerous episodes of the show, testosterone is the ultimate feel-good motivation, improved health, improved fitness, improved body composition, super drug. Okay, so everything from your mood to your recovery time and everything in between is affected by your body's endocrine health. And what my team and I have done is we've actually taken years of my own self-experimentation, years of research, every possible literature and study we could find, and we've condensed it into a simple 3 to 4 hour program that you can follow along and make simple, safe, and easy adjustments to your lifestyle to improve your endocrine health. Now, as listeners of this podcast, you can get a very special discount by visiting jle.vi/T. That's jle.vi, just like my name, /T for testosterone. This episode is brought to you by Organifi. You guys, one of the only things that every nutritional expert that we've had on the show seems to actually agree on is that we all need to eat more vegetables, eat more greens, eat organic, cut out all the processed junk. Well, who has the time, right? Who has the time to go out, do the shopping, make the salads, make the juices, make the smoothies? And that's what I love so much about Organifi. Their product is an all-organic green juice. It has all of the nutrients that you need. It tastes absolutely amazing, and it's made by wonderful people who I consider to be personal friends. And as listeners of this show, you guys can actually save 20% on your first order. And all you have to do is go to Organifi.com. That's ORGANIFI.com and use the coupon code SUPERHUMAN at checkout. Greetings, super friends, and welcome to this week's episode of the Becoming Superhuman podcast. You guys, this week is a special episode for a couple different reasons. One, we are continuing my format of coming a little bit less prepared to the interviews and just seeing where it takes me. And I think you guys will agree, I hope you guys will agree, that the interviews tend to come out a little bit more interesting, a little bit more engaging when I just roll with the punches and explore my curiosity. But of course, do let me know if you guys disagree. And the second reason that this episode is special is because we're covering a topic that's actually pretty close to my heart and pretty close to my journey of becoming superhuman, as we say. And that is the quest to stop drinking alcohol. I, like many people who choose not to drink alcohol, never really had a problem. I wouldn't say I had a alcohol addiction or anything like that. But along about 2 years ago, I decided to stop drinking alcohol. And there are a lot of reasons for that, be it health, be it better sleep, be it just a lifestyle choice, a social choice, a challenge, really. And to facilitate this discussion, I wanted to invite on someone who has helped tens of thousands of people go through the same journey, and someone who has an incredible story so that he and I could really both share what we had to say and try and encourage you to explore this and see if this is something that could add value in your own lives as it has in both of ours. So we are joined by Ruari Fairbairns. He's an entrepreneur. He's a speaker. He's an oil broker, of all things, and he's a father of 2 girls. He and his partner founded 1 Year No Beer, which is basically a challenge to help people get alcohol free and focus on fitness, diet, and mindset in, I guess what I would say is a more communal and a little bit more modern approach than some of the other ways that people quit alcohol. They have tens of thousands of members all over the world who are transforming their lives following simple and science-backed shifts in mindset. So we're going to talk in this episode about all kinds of different benefits for giving up alcohol. We're going to talk about ways that you can give up alcohol and ways to really assess if this is something that is right for you. As I say, guys, this is something that's provided a lot of value in my own life, from improved health to forcing me to develop my own social skills. And you'll hear a lot about that in the episode as well. So I hope you guys really do enjoy it. And as I said, do let me know on the Twitter machine or in the blog post if you do. So now, without any further ado, Mr. Ruari Fairbairns. Ruari, welcome to the show, my friend. How are you doing today?
Fantastic, my man. How are you?
Yeah, living the dream. You know, it's been like incredibly hot here in Tel Aviv. So I'm excited to be in the air-conditioned room.
What's incredibly hot?
Let me tell you, today it was like 33. That's pretty good. 33 Celsius. Oof. 100% humidity.
So that's what it's been the last days in London. It got up to 36.
Wow.
I know.
Toasty.
That's incredible for London. It's the hottest day in 40 years or something, they said.
Wow. So Ruari, tell me a little bit about you, your background, what you do, and kind of how you came to become interested in improving human performance.
Yes. Well, a very interesting route. At least I think so. So I grew up on the island of Mull, a small island off the west coast of Scotland, and pretty wild childhood. Not many people around. You know everyone. Hey, Jim. And I found myself, before I left school, set up my first business. Didn't go so well. I was too young. Tried another business, a couple more businesses. I ended up, by the time I was 21, I'd set up and shut down 5 different companies.
That sounds familiar.
The largest of which I employed 10 people for about 3 years. We did a sort of sales outsourcing business. We worked for tech companies and we sold their product on their behalf. And I always believed I was gonna get onto greater things. I just didn't know the route. And one day I was back on the island of Mull and I was drinking fairly heavily. And a friend of mine said, you should apply for the TV program The Apprentice. And I'd never seen this program. So I, left the pub, wandered up there and filled out the application form as a joke. Wind forward 4 months and I'm sitting outside the show, having done tons of interviews, ready to go on the show. And the producers coming in, going back out, coming in, going back out. And eventually they come out and they say, really sorry, sir, but this time around you're not going on the show. And, I'd told the whole island of Mull, which is, about 8 people, that I was, going on The Apprentice. So I couldn't go back there. So when they put me back to the airport, I was looking at the departure screen and I thought, where am I going to go? Next flight to Ibiza. Now, for those listening who don't know, Ibiza is a bit of a crazy party island in Spain. So I flew out there and randomly, after a couple of days, I bumped into a broker. And this broker said, hey, why don't you come and move down to London? So I did. I moved down to London and became a oil broker. A little bit of a random fall there. And so I spent the last 11 years as an oil broker, originally doing crude oil, and now I do jet fuel. And I found myself, as is well tied with the broking industry, maybe drinking a bit too much. And if I describe the drinking a bit too much, I mean, a couple of times a week, maybe entertaining customers and coming home a little bit sozzled and maybe getting, drunk at the weekend with friends. And it was starting, after a few years of this, I'd become very successful at my job. I'd taken, my desk to be the number one out there. And I started having, this friction in my life around alcohol. And I didn't really know where to go because it was so intrinsically linked. If I thought about who I was a guy who drank pints, and one of the lads. And yet I could see that my relationship was struggling and I could see that maybe my health was not perfect in some places. Actually doing something completely random, I decided to drop alcohol for 90 days. And I almost wanted to prove to my wife that this was not the problem in our relationship, right? I was like, I'm going to drop this and we're going to discover that actually it's all your fault. You're an angry woman. Quite the opposite. I discovered that this is quite possibly the biggest hidden gem for anyone out there who is regularly drinking, that going alcohol free for an extended period, more than 30 days, 90 days, and changing your mindset about alcohol can totally change your life like it did mine. So I got together with another broker and we created what is now called 1 Year No Beer. We've helped getting close to 17,000 people now in over 100 countries rewire their brain and change their relationship with alcohol. And the transformation that these people go through is huge. And from little things like anxiety and everything. So I've talked far too long, but that is basically the nutshell of me today.
Wow. That is incredibly, incredibly interesting. And I didn't tell you this over email, but this episode is actually going to come out on my 2-year anniversary of the last time I had a drink. And it was actually recording for an episode of this show when I decided, and it wasn't a particularly bad incident. Nothing bad happened except perhaps a hangover. But I decided it would be entertaining to, have a couple bottles of wine, so-called healthy beverage, and, record an episode. And I really didn't like the person that I heard on the recording, but I also, had been dabbling in not drinking for quite a long time. And so I'm right on board with you.
Amazing. Well done. 2 years.
When this episode comes out will be, 2 years since I've had a drink.
Well, hang on. I just need to give you a round of applause.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you kindly. I don't consider it an accomplishment, though. I very much consider it a lifestyle choice. And that's why the next question I wanted to ask you was, what changed in your life? I mean, walk me through the health stuff, the relationship stuff. It's one thing to say I had less of a beer belly. It's another thing to say, hey, I was less angry. Or, hey, I had this chronic inflammation, that went away. So walk me through a little bit of the changes. And don't feel like you talk too much. We're here to interview you.
Awesome. I'll carry on waffling. No, so 25% body fat down to 10% body fat. So I did 2 years completely alcohol free. And once I'd got to the 90 days, I just wanted more and more. So the thing that first lifts is the fog. And I have that realization that I'd always felt in the back of my mind that I was being dumbed down. And interestingly, exactly the case. I was being dumbed down. And I was being dumbed down by myself. Now, there's some great conspiracy theorists out there who say that actually, alcohol was applied by the government to people to keep them dumbed down. So the other changes for me were, anger gone, anxiety dramatically reduced. My marriage was in a very, very rocky situation, and we went very quickly to more in love than we'd ever been. I would probably say 3 to 6 months, we were deeply in love again. Now, this was not the first intervention in my wife and I's marriage. I've been in counseling since I was primary school because I'm ADHD, and my parents chose counseling instead of drugs. And so I've done deep exploration in myself my whole life, and I still never saw this thing that I was doing to myself. Whereas with my marriage, I've always wanted to explore, and, I found that our marriage got better. Now, as I've written about many times before, I don't believe that alcohol was the problem. And like many of you out there listening, you'll think that alcohol is not the problem. But I will tell you this, you can't get to the problem while you are still drinking. You need to lift that lid off, and then you get the awakening. So the other things were for me was massive increase in productivity. Now that's something coming from an ADHD guy, right? I can do a lot. At normal speed, I'm probably 3 times the normal human being. But now I'm 10 times the normal human being. I multitask way quicker than anybody else. I get so much more done. Here I am, still running the number 1 jet fuel desk in the world. It's still growing. A family, 2 kids. I've totally renovated a house from top to bottom, a 200-year-old barn. It's been a 2-year project, which I sort of helped manage. I've grown OIMB from nothing, got a book published with a major publisher, run a podcast, and had it up to 16,000 members, and done work with, academics, Stirling University. So, all of that productivity for me was the massive thing. And it was almost like the 9 years that I was broking and drinking regularly, I was needed to make up for, because, I had stuff to do on this planet, and I couldn't do it while I was drinking.
Amazing. And I think, a lot of that, it doesn't sound like you were a chronic alcoholic, but definitely drinking more than you should. And I think a lot of it comes down to health.
Yeah.
Alcohol is a toxic substance. So it affects your sleep. It affects your health. And, even if you're casually drinking, it affects your testosterone. And this isn't, to say that all alcohol is bad and you should never, ever, ever drink. But I guess that is kind of the next question that I wanted to ask, because it's a question I get all the time, which is, what's the harm in, 1 beer a week? Why do you need to go all the way to the extreme? Why can't you do one or the other? Or my favorite one, it's my birthday, have a drink with me. Why black or white? Why, for those who aren't alcoholics and aren't worried about getting on or off the wagon, why can't it be somewhere in the middle?
There is a number of things you've gone into there, which I have to remember to come back to. First of all, I now drink moderately. So I believe, even after 2 years, that there are occasions where I want to switch off my ADHD brain. Now, I know that if I drink on a Saturday night with a few friends because it's a special occasion, that I'm going to be the world's worst. No, I don't. I just mean I'm going to be a worse dad, right? I'm going to be an iPad or Moana on repeat 4 times dad the next day. And you know what? That's okay for me sometimes. It's okay to be not as good a dad as I possibly could, because I also believe that in some situations, some business situations, whether you like it or not, you need to get away with it. Now, so Andy, my co-founder, he's like, I'm never drinking again. I'm never going near that. Andy's an ex-professional footballer. We used to work together at the same broking firm. He now runs a broking firm of 26 guys in the city. And he, massive upside, huge upgrade to his business and running the company, doesn't ever want to go back there again. For me, I've got now total control. I choose, I can have half a glass and not carry on. I can sip the wine and it doesn't matter. And if ever I feel like I'm going back or drinking too much, I just put myself back on the naughty step and do another 30-day or 90-day challenge. Mm-hmm. That is the point about our system, is we want to help you change your relationship. And for some people, they don't want to never drink again. For some people, they just want to get it into a perfect spot. So this is the learning I've done over the last 2 years. I've realized that nobody wants to give up alcohol. Okay. Why would you want to give up alcohol? A, it's fun. B, it relaxes you. C, you have a great time. Everybody's doing it. What people don't want is the effects. What happens afterwards when you have a drug, the lows, the anxiety, or the problems, the health problems. That's what people don't want. So if you can help people, show them that they can put it into a moderate place if they choose to, then that's the perfect spot for them. The other bit you mentioned was about how people behave when you say, no, I'm not drinking tonight. And they say, what? What's wrong with you? Now, this just leads back to a very, very simple innate tribalism. We all have an innate tribalism. We want to belong to a tribe. Mm-hmm. And we've been watching, before we were even old enough to speak, probably we're watching our parents and people, celebrate, commiserate, congratulate with alcohol. And it was really ingrained in our brains that that's what you did. And so we've been brought up with this tribalism. You can see that behavior mapping out when you say, no, I'm not going to drink tonight. The reaction that people give you is a fear from them that you are leaving the tribe. Why are you different? What's wrong with you?
Or judging.
Yes, they get fearful of their own relationship. They get fearful of their own experience. Mm-hmm. They get fearful that you're leaving the tribe and they're defending their tribe. So if you understand that, you can work with that. Obviously, this is the kind of thing we teach in our mindset shift, is how to go out and how to behave and how to get away with it, how to maybe drink all night and not have anybody know that you're not drinking. We teach you these techniques. A great book, Charles Duhigg, The Power of Habit.
Great book.
Exactly. And, one of the founding principles or founding books for the OYMB system is about cue, reward, routine. So what we're looking at each time is Friday night, you walk out of the office and you say, oh my God, such a stressful day. I just want to go to the sunshine and have a beer with the guys and feel right. Well, let's just break that down. What is it you're actually looking for? Well, you're looking for social inclusion. You're looking to relax. You're looking to get away. Okay, well, let's break them down into individual things. First step, can you go to somewhere just quietly for 10 minutes and do for some mindfulness first to get that relaxation, to try and remove the week, to change your mindset? Or could you maybe go to yoga class first, or maybe go to a spinning class to get the dopamine hit? The second thing, you want to go and then meet your mates after you've had that relaxation and drink non-alcoholic beer. Now, this is an absolute mindset shift when we get people to drink non-alcoholic beers, because you realize that you're putting the bottle to your mouth. You're getting the same feeling, the similar sort of taste. It's going down. You're hanging out with the same people. You're in the sunshine, and you're realizing, you know what? Actually, I didn't need to drink. And that's where the rewiring happens.
Right. Although I do want to say, I'll push back a little bit, and I'll say that people always ask me, why don't you drink? And I like to talk to them a little bit about just kind of the interesting social challenge or experiment that I think comes from not drinking, because what happens when you drink, and as you said, drinking does take off the edge and it helps us relax and it helps us be more social and it does all these wonderful things. But in a way, if you don't drink, you create this kind of social challenge where I now have to be at a wedding last night until 1 a.m. and push myself to be authentically social and engaged and interested in people and, dance and have fun and not be embarrassed and be confident in myself without the crutch. But then I think one of the other reasons that people drink, and not everyone drinks this way, a lot of people enjoy the relaxation and everything like that, though one could also argue, I think you can will yourself into a state of lowered inhibitions, will yourself into a state of lowered stress.
Absolutely.
But I think a lot of people drink for plausible deniability, to no longer have to be responsible for their actions or no longer be accountable to their actions. And so I always push people and challenge them, especially when you hear people. I mean, it's one thing to enjoy a good beer, and I used to love a good glass of whiskey. But it's another thing for people to say, I can't dance yet, I haven't had enough to drink. And so I encourage anyone, if you find yourself saying that, or, I can't go talk to that woman over there because I haven't even had a drink yet, push through that a little bit and understand that it's fine to use crutches. We all use crutches. I use the crutch of coffee and yerba mate, to get my best work done. But ask yourself if you want to be in that position where you have to rely on a substance to do things that you claim to be fun and engaging and, spend time with friends and have good laughs and stuff like that. So that was just my little commentary there.
No, absolutely spot on. And that was something for me when I took it away. And I had these little bit of withdrawal symptoms. I felt worse. And even when our own members do and they have withdrawal, I say, think about those withdrawal symptoms for a second. You're having withdrawal symptoms, right? You're taking something out of your life, which is causing your body to flush out this, poison. I'm sorry. I'm not saying alcohol, we're not here to say alcohol is the devil. We're being, realistic with society and the way it is today. But have a think about that for a second. The fact that you think you need this thing. You guys, you don't need anything, right? Being superhuman is absolutely within you. Stop numbing yourself. Stop forcing yourself to not be superhuman, because your natural state is. And that's the gift of when you get somebody to go alcohol free, is they suddenly get this feeling, this energy. I mean, you come into our Facebook group, you come into our community, and it's just every day somebody is writing. I get handwritten letters. I'll read them out to my wife at night from people who are like, you've changed my life. You've changed my family's life. My husband's changed, it's just incredible. And this is such a simple thing.
That is awesome. That is awesome. So now I want to ask you, Ruari, a little bit about the process. I mean, if anyone out there, and obviously everyone should join your community, but walk us through a little bit of the process. I mean, for me, it was just a matter of, having one or two too many hangovers where I was like, you know what, I'm not 22 years old anymore. I cannot drink like that, have a bottle of wine to myself with a friend and rebound the next day. It's like we're looking at a 2-day recovery period. But what's the process for someone who wants to completely give up alcohol, get to the superhuman state?
So I think that, going alcohol free forever is way too big. So we start off with a 30-day, but you want to be going for the 90-day challenge. I think most people, we've got a 30-day challenge in there, but it pretty much leads straight into the 90-day because the biggest changes for you are going to happen further down. Now, what is so special about? Well, we are going to help you go through a mindset shift. Andy and myself, we spend a lot of time in positive psychology, behavioral science. We spend a lot of time in NLP, mindfulness, to bring you this mindset shift. So we're going to look at things like what I mentioned, Charles Duhigg and habit change. We get you to do certain things, go out there and do real world things which help you rewire your brain, see that you didn't need it, experience that for yourself, swapping out the alcohol-free alternatives. The other very important we mentioned about tribalism, belonging to a tribe. Now, that part of the challenge is very important because when you start our challenge, unlike most things, if you go and just try and do it yourself, a lot of people put their life on hold. They don't go out. They don't go to the wedding. They avoid these circumstances because they're like, oh, God, I won't be able to exist if I'm not drinking alcohol. Whereas we get you to go to those places and experience them. Dare yourself. Challenge yourself. Now, I was talking about this before. Just think of this like climbing Everest or any major challenge out there, right? Don't think this is a small thing, right? Not drinking in a totally alcohol-drenched society is a big challenge, right? It requires learning, so if you come along and you go to a wedding or you go something like that and you plan, you think about it beforehand, hand. You walk up to the barman and you say, whatever you give everyone else, give me non-alcoholic, here's 20 quid, don't tell anyone. Or some of the tips you do. When somebody buys you a drink, you just say, thanks very much, go to the toilet, pour it down, go back to the bar, buy yourself a non-alcoholic version. Nobody needs to know. But you experience these events, and the following day, you have this incredible feeling. You're like, I did it. A huge sense of achievement. Now, that sense of achievement massively outweighs the numbing or the buzz you had from, getting drunk. And it lasts you a lot longer. It becomes social currency. It helps in your willpower, in your self-belief, in your self-confidence. Now you're starting to get back to your authentic self and feel more confident by just being you. And that's what we help you to have the shift. So the actual program, 90 days of emails, or 30 or 90 days of emails, Facebook group where we run all our accountability posts coming in each day. Every single day you're given something to do. As I mentioned, we're very exercise focused. Exercise is literally the antidote to booze. It's very difficult to do both at the same time, although this current fad I've seen go around on Facebook for yoga with beer or whatever rubbish that is. But most of it you don't. And the beauty about exercise, going for a spin class with mates on a Friday instead of down to the pub is going to give you that dopamine release, is going to make you feel so much better and much more rewarding. So right early on, we get you to book into a big challenge. An example of those are Tough Mudders, Spartan races. We have members entering them all over the world. I'm doing 4 or 5 this year. I've got the 3 Peaks Challenge next weekend and Tough Mudder. I've got a Tough Viking in Sweden we're doing.
Wow.
So these things, and it's not just about entering into those major challenges. Ram, who's 69 in India, his 90-day challenge was to walk a mile. Okay, so obviously not the fittest guy, but that was enough for him. That was enough to get him walking a little bit around the block instead of just drinking every day. And so everyone has their different challenges. Even if you don't want to do exercise, it's booking into something like a new hobby. The biggest thing is that for most people, they will have an awareness, a sort of epiphany, I call it. And their energy level will increase and you want more. You're like, what, that hobby that I haven't been doing for years, that thing I used to do when I was younger, I might reignite that. I might learn that language. I might start that podcast. I might start that business. I've got the energy, the productivity, the excitement and the happiness back in my life that I want to go and tackle that. So that becomes part of their excuse as well. Excuse is not the most positive word, but I'm afraid that's what it is in this society. When somebody says to you at the bar, what do you want to drink? You say, oh, no, I'm doing a 90-day challenge with 1 year no beer. I'm training for a Tough Viking in Sweden, right? How is that for an answer? That's the kind of thing we want to do. When somebody asks you, you've got a very short period. And if you sound all, next minute, you'll have a Stella in your hand. You know what I mean? So you need to be confident. And that's the kind of thing we show in our challenge.
I love actually that you covered the social aspects, because I think the social aspects are just as hard as the physical withdrawal, because you do need techniques, you need strategies. And I started to come up with them years and years ago when I first kind of gave up drinking. And eventually I had to go back for the exact social reasons of, I'm in business school, I need to be networking, so on and so forth. But you develop these strategies. You order a soda water with lime, which looks just like a gin and tonic.
Yeah.
One of my favorite ones is if you tell people no thanks, people ask questions. If you tell people, I don't drink alcohol, number one, they don't ask questions like, it's not, I don't drink anymore, which makes you kind of sound like an alcoholic. They might think it's a religious thing, and then they certainly won't ask. They might think that it's a health thing, a liver thing. They certainly won't ask. So whatever it is, it ends the conversation in a way that doesn't make them feel like a jerk. So that's usually my line. No, I don't drink alcohol. Another tip that I really, really like is, when everyone's like, cheers, it's kind of, you don't want to join in with water. So, well, I guess it only works in Hebrew, but everyone will say l'chaim, and I'll say to your health, lebriut. And you can do the same thing, to other people and toast them to have a good night. And you can make a joke. I hope none of you guys have a hangover tomorrow. Make a toast like that. So there are all these kinds of tricks to not feel like an idiot. And, there are a lot of, I guess I would say, minefields, first dates.
They're on minefields.
A little bit tricky. Not so much in terms of the not being comfortable. Like I said, you can crush that challenge with learning to be present, but in making the other people that you're around, making that person across the table from you feel comfortable. So I love that you guys provide that support.
Exactly. And without a doubt, it's not the same. Okay. It's not the same. It's not the same as the hit. Dating isn't going to be the same, but it's different. And it's the same thing we say about holidays. So this is all the stuff that we teach. It's how to live realistically, your little guide, how to avoid those situations, how to get around them. But, holidays, people say, what? I've got a holiday coming up, and they add it to the excuse or reason why not get started. Right. Yes, an alcohol-free holiday is totally different to what you normally have, but it's incredible to come home from a holiday and actually be relaxed, to feel completely relaxed. And you know what you've done instead is you've done activities. You've taken the kids, if you don't have kids, just yourself. You've done hikes, walks, boating. You've got up in the morning and tried the kayaking and experienced it in a completely different way, an incredible way. And you're like, you know what, actually, that was one of the most fulfilling holidays I've had for a very, very long time. And you just put it up onto the board as, yes, I did an alcohol-free holiday. What an achievement, as I was mentioning before. So all of these things, this is what our challenge was. So for Andy and I, we're both brokers. We have to live in that environment and work in that environment. And it was about, for years, Andy and I were coming up with ways to not drink while still entertaining customers. It would be Beck's Blue in the pint glass, topped up with lemonade, looks like a pint. It would be all sorts of things. I'll never forget the day I went into one restaurant, and it was with a particularly big customer. And I got in there early because I was expected, and I handed the barman 20 quid. It was a French restaurant. I handed him 20 quid and I said, look, whatever the guys have, I want something non-alcoholic. And he was like, cool, put the 20 quid in his pocket, totally get it. Actually, I did have to explain it to him a couple of times, so it got me worried. And we sat down, and the guys were like, beer, yeah. And I was like, beer, yep, cool. Yeah, everyone nodded their head. Yep, we're all still in the tribe, don't worry. And off the barman goes, and as he's coming back, he drops off their beers, and I'm still waiting for mine. And he comes back, and he sort of blows dust off this glass, which has got two handles either side and like little design patterns around it. And I'm like, puts this tiny little glass on, which is so obviously different from everybody else, and then gets this non-alcoholic beer and pours it in at the table and drops the non-alcoholic beer on the table. And I'm like, you absolute... completely missed the point. So the guys are like, oh, you're not drinking? Anyway. So yeah, lots of learning, years of learning, condensed into real world tips, tricks and hacks on surviving an alcohol-free challenge and having this mindset shift, which will change your relationship with alcohol.
Amazing. And how would you compare, I guess, this program to AA? I mean, it sounds like it caters to a totally different audience, but I think it's important maybe to raise this question just in case anyone out there is struggling with alcoholism as a disease. Maybe we should make it clear who is and is not a good candidate for OYNB.
Okay, well, I'm sorry in advance to all the AA people. This is just my opinion, but I don't believe there's a disease. I don't believe that the AA says, I know what they say. They say they've never cured anybody of the disease. So whilst we are not for addicts and people who have been affected by alcoholism, we do have people who are drinking to that level who have changed their relationship with alcohol and or decided to go alcohol free. We've got guys who are, not just guys, ladies who are, 2 years alcohol free now, like yourself, and choosing to carry on. They're in it for life, never going back. We've got guys with OYNB tattoos. They are in for life. But, in comparison to, for us, we just believe that we have all been conditioned and we've all been forced by society, marketing, peak booze. There's a great article about peak booze and how all the marketing back in the 80s when it was marketed as a refreshing drink really caused society to get quite obsessed with alcohol. Mm-hmm. And actually what people are, and there's a fantastic talk from Johann Hari, which again is another one of the foundations of 1 Year No Beer, that the opposite of addiction is connection. Mm-hmm. So what we need to do is we need to get more people connected. Have you seen the talk I'm speaking of, Jonathan?
I haven't, but I like that quote a lot.
Okay, so let me just, in a nutshell, a study with rats. Rats are put into a cage and they are given alcohol or water. The rats go straight to the alcohol, drink themselves to death and die. Put the rats in a super cage with spinning wheels and platforms and loads of other rats. Rats never touch the alcohol. They never touch it. So what they've realized, and the same thing with what's happened with Portugal, Portugal decided to change the way it saw addiction. It made it compulsory for companies to hire people who were previously addicted. It made homes for everybody who was on addiction, decriminalized drugs. They went from Europe's worst drug affected society to now the best. So they have the least drug problem in the whole of Europe. And they've done that in a very, very short period of time for making people feel connected and included. And that's why if you want to go out there and just do your own alcohol-free challenge, you may well slip up. You want to come and belong to a society which makes you feel inclusive and is trying to live the way that you want to live. And we're not giving you any labels. There's no stigma here. We're not talking about you being an addict or alcoholic or any of those things. You're just somebody who wants to get the best out of life and improve their life and drop something which is incredibly negative, but the whole of society is holding on to. So we encourage you through that and support you well beyond that. We're actually supporting people through lots of other things, no sugar challenges, getting up in the morning challenges, the miracle morning. Because really what we've discovered is that alcohol is the gateway to your health. Now, a lot of people say that alcohol or marijuana or sugar is the gateway drug, right, to other drugs. We're talking about alcohol being the one thing that is holding you back from optimum health.
Love it. I love it. Ruari, I want to be respectful of your time, so I want to start asking you some of the kind of wind down questions here. One of which is, are there any products or services that you just can't live without right now, whether they're related to alcohol or not?
Any products. I can't live without my personal trainer because
that's a good one.
I can definitely be a procrastinator. I'm probably a workaholic. So I just let, with the amount of time I have, trying to do a full-time job, run this, have a family. If my personal trainer doesn't turn up at the house at 6 a.m., then nothing's going to get done. So he is absolutely kicking my butt cheeks right now and doing an incredible job. So I couldn't be without him.
Awesome. That's a really good one. You mentioned Charles Duhigg, Power of Habit, which is one of my favorite books on the topic. Are there any other books that you would recommend to our audience?
Well, I'd recommend the 1 Year No Beer book when it comes out in December. Absolutely.
Awesome.
Annie Grace, This Naked Mind. Her book, she gives it away for free on our community. If you go and sign up there, This Naked Mind, really good insight into alcohol and the journey up there. What else has been a really good one for me? Oh, I love Tim Ferriss' Tool for the Titans, another cracking book.
Yeah, it's supposed to be really good. I haven't read it yet, but I really got to get on it.
Yeah, Tim Ferriss he's somebody else who's a big advocate out there for no booze for a month.
Yeah, his was the Knob Nom.
Knob Nom, yeah.
Right.
Do you know what? We're not talking about this today, but I had a massive upside from doing that for a month too.
Totally.
And, felt so much better with my wife and absolutely. Right. So highly recommend that one too.
Yeah. And for anyone in the audience who isn't familiar, Knob Nom means no booze, no masturbation for a month. Specifically geared, I believe, towards men. But there is a lot of interesting research about endocrine health, testosterone, and autoeroticism, I guess would be the polite way for us to put it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Ruari, I want to, like I said, be respectful of your time. So go ahead and let us know where people can find more about you. Where can they check out the book when it comes out? And of course, where can they get involved in the 1 Year No Beer Challenge?
Awesome. So I just want to say to you guys out there, if this is the first time you've been thinking about this is a process, right? You're talking about a major thing. You're constantly surrounded around. I'm not expecting you to go and sign up and start this challenge tomorrow. If you want to, you can go to oneyearnobeer.com, all spelled out, O-N-E, no beer. 1 year, what? Yeah, oneyearnobeer.com. And if you stick your email address in there, we'll keep in touch with you. Maybe it's 3 months down the line you finally decide to jump over the hurdle. Maybe it's 6 months. Maybe you want to do it in January. We've started running monthly challenges. So there's monthly challenge kicking off in July, monthly challenge kicking off in August. And it gets the whole group focused together, all going through the same thing in the Facebook group. We just started doing that in June. Everyone was like, this is the best thing ever. We're all working together as a team. And that really builds that tribalism thing, So whenever you're feeling the pressure, you've literally got the tribalism in your pocket. So yeah, head to the website, oneyearnobeer.com. I'm on LinkedIn. Feel free to add me on LinkedIn up there. And we can get you superhuman in no time.
Awesome. I want to ask you that one last question, Ruari, that we always ask, which is if there's anyone in the audience out there and you want them to remember just one message for the rest of their lives, what would you hope for that message to be?
I would hope that they realize that they could get out their funk and change their life in ways they never imagined. And I don't know, because it's different for every one person, just by dropping alcohol. for 90 days.
I love it. Ruari, I really, really appreciate your time today. It was definitely a super engaging conversation for me, and I'm sure our audience learned a ton, so thank you.
Well done on your 2 years. Absolute legend. 3, 4, 5 years for you?
I'm going to go the distance, I think. I don't see any reason to go back to alcohol at this point. I think a single beer would knock me on my ass, so.
Brilliant.
All right, my friend. Well, you take care, and thanks again.
Thanks for having me on. Thanks, everyone, for listening.
All right, super friends, that is all we have for you today, but I hope you guys really enjoyed the show, and I hope you learned a ton of actionable information, tips, advice that will help you go out there and overcome the impossible. If you've enjoyed the show, please take a moment to leave us a review on iTunes or Stitcher, or drop us a quick little note on the Twitter machine at GoSuperHuman. Also, if you have any ideas for anyone out there who you would love to see on the show, we always love to hear your recommendations. You can submit on our website, or you can just drop us an email and let us know. That's all for today, guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for tuning in to the Becoming Superhuman podcast. For more great skills and strategies, or for links to any of the resources mentioned in this episode, visit www.becomingasuperhuman.com/podcast. We'll see you next time.